in my career, I was introduced to this book, Our Iceberg is Melting, by John Cotter. 10 years later, I finally got around to reading it. It's a fable about a colony of penguins dealing with a critical and pressing problem. It's a lesson in change management and dealing with the stress, problems, and personalities that go along with major organizational shifts. This is a perfect allegory to the problems with healthcare and modern medicine today. Many believe that the critical and pressing problem we face has to do with healthcare delivery. My approach is healthcare cannot be fixed because it's built on old beliefs about disease that are inaccurate. The biggest problem with healthcare is not how much it costs or how to get everyone access, but the simple fact that healthcare can't heal you, particularly when it comes to chronic disease. If you go into the hospital or a clinic with diabetes, COPD, heart disease, chronic kidney disease, or any other chronic disease, you're going to be discharged from that facility with it. You might have gotten patched up along the way, which is meaningful, but for the vast majority of people, the disease is still there. Why? Because we don't understand disease. No healing art does. If anyone did, we wouldn't be in this mess. That's the critical and pressing problem. Failure to understand chronic diseases makes them perpetually incurable. Healthcare can't be fixed, but the way we view disease can. In this video, I use John Cotter's book as a scaffold to explain Zazari Project's big picture process approach to promoting a paradigm shift in medicine. It's time to discover real healing for chronic diseases, and this is a plan to get there. All right, here we are at the light board. We're going to talk about the story about our iceberg is melting, which it appears to be right now. The story starts with a colony of penguins that live on this iceberg. It has always been their home, and as far as they know, it will always be their home. So they really have no reason to sort of question this issue. Let's put some little penguins up here. And they take it for granted, good and bad. They have this nice wall that prevents the storms from taking them out in the winter. There's nice places to fish. They know where all the good spots are. This is a really great place. So everybody's pretty happy. However, there's this one penguin named Fred. He's over here, and Fred is an observer, and he has noticed that there's some problems with this iceberg. He goes underwater, and he finds that there's this channel and this cave underneath that, under certain circumstances, this could freeze, expand, and split their iceberg apart, which would be devastating for a whole colony in the middle of winter. The first part of the story is the journey of Fred to go up to his leadership. There's a council and convincing them that there's a problem and demonstrating that. And all the personality issues that go around with trying to get everybody on board with a new problem. Once they're mostly on board, then it's about communicating to the colony. Well, here's the problem, here's what we're going to do about it, but the problem is they didn't really know what they were going to do about it. They didn't know why this was happening, just that it was, and it was a very serious threat. They need to start coming up with some solutions. So initially they think about some different ways to sort of stabilize their iceberg so that the integrity remains intact, but nothing really works out. Serendipitously, one of the penguins notices that a seagull is flying overhead, and they're like, oh my God, what is this flying bird thing? So they talk to the seagull, and the seagull says, hey, I'm a scout, so I live with a colony of birds, and we are migratory, or we are nomads, and they go to different places at different times of the year. And as a scout, he goes out to look for good places for the colony to follow him. To the penguins, this is a fairly novel concept. They've always been a stationary colony. This nomad life sounds pretty strange. And it would require a very deep cultural change to say, hey, you know what, every year we're going to move to a different place. That's a whole different story for these penguins. But they think about the solutions and the options. And they said, we really don't have any other options. I think becoming nomads is going to be the way forward. The next step is, well, how are we going to find these other icebergs? Let's go out and look for them. So they had to develop scouts. So certain penguins volunteer to be scouts. So they jump off their iceberg and they are exploring the ocean for new icebergs. So they go and find different ones out and about. Maybe this one's kind of flat and then it's got a peak. There we go. These are the different icebergs. So these scouts leave their home, a big adventure, and on the first wave, they're just looking for options. It doesn't have to be a good one. They just have to know what's out there. Then they come back They report what they have found, and then beyond that, they send out the second wave, which explores which maybe these two were really good, and they explore those a little bit more, what kind of fits the needs of the colony, and then they finally elect one. They say, aha, this is our iceberg that we are aiming for. Then they have to solve all the problems about getting there and getting everyone on board with it and all the challenges around that. But they make it happen, and the entire colony moves to here. When they got to the new iceberg, a lot of the penguins said, we like it here. We don't need to go anywhere else. But there was an incentive to continue to be nomads and find bigger and better icebergs further out. But you can't see the other icebergs until you're on the new one. So maybe there's some more out here that were invisible when you were on the initial one. There we go. And that's the story. It's about change management to move forward like this and the challenges that go with that, but then also not becoming complacent in the future, and it requires a total culture change. So how does this extend to healthcare, health, disease, and our understandings? The tip of the iceberg, the 10% we can see, is what I consider healthcare, all of healthcare. I'm going to call this extended healthcare. This is where the touch points with the community and patients happen. This may be hospitals and clinics, and it may be what's going on with getting lab work and imaging and consultants and mental health professionals, and again, the complementary and alternative medicine specialists, and everything that goes with the direct patient care. Also is the supporting structure. So you have everything overlying with government intervention and all the requirements there. And then you have all the stuff with insurance companies and how that rolls in there. And information technology and tying all these things together. And everything that goes into our concept of healthcare. And that's up here. So that's only 10%. So what's the rest of it? What's under here? What's the 90% that healthcare is actually built on? And what that is theory, which is our understanding of disease. Everything that exists in reality today is built on a philosophy. So the philosophy of medicine falls under two main categories, no matter what type of healer, caregiver you are, or what type of medicine you subscribe to, which is physiology. So physiology is the study, in this case, of a normal living system, which is humans. It's the study of how the body normally works. So it could be a whole individual. It could be organs. It could be mental health. It could be cells and DNA and all the processes that go into a normal, healthy, functioning system. The opposite of that is pathology. So it's also pathology. This is when the system is sick and something is not operating as it should be on, again, an individual, organ, cellular, DNA, molecular, whatever level. Something's going wrong. So it's essentially when things work normally and when they are not working normally. This is our understanding of disease. And down here is where we do a lot of our research. So the one interesting thing about our research, yes, it is kind of foundational. All of this supports the existing healthcare system. But as you can see, this is still an iceberg. It's bounded. And what this iceberg represents is our paradigm of medicine. And what I mean by paradigm is it's assumptions about what we believe about health and disease. It's rules of the game. It's sort of a framework, a way of thinking about disease that's supported by science of the day. There have been previous paradigms, and we're going to talk about that. And what we're finding is our iceberg, our understanding of disease has some really big holes in it. This is the problem. Our understanding of disease and the lens through which we look at it. I'm not saying what we understand about pathology and physiology is wrong. I'm saying we're interpreting it in an insufficient way such that our iceberg is kind of falling apart. And this is becoming so overwhelming. Everything we do to affect healthcare, trying to we cut costs here, and then this ends up ballooning out, and then we do some population health stuff here. Everything we do to change healthcare and try to control costs or make sure everybody has access is just plastic surgery to the top of the iceberg, where the problems under here that we're really not addressing appropriately. So even if you wiped this out and said, you know what, we just need a whole new healthcare system, get rid of government out of it, or get rid of insurance companies, and put something new up here, you haven't solved the fundamental problem, and it's just going to happen again, which is why we need to be looking at new icebergs, which is new ideas. As we move forward, I'm addressing some principal areas. The first is to look at the challenges down here. How is our iceberg weak? And I want to show you the problems with the structural integrity of our iceberg, where the gaps in our knowledge are, and that comes in paradoxes, things we can't understand, and they show up everywhere. We just take them for granted and sort of sweep them under the rug, but we just don't understand why a lot of things happen. And those are portals of interest that can help us get off this iceberg and start thinking differently, because we need to make some new insights, new discoveries, examine our assumptions, because they're not all correct and they're limiting us. If you are already some type of alternative healer, you might be like, I'm totally on a different iceberg as it is, and you guys just don't get it. But the truth is you're just as attached to your iceberg in some ways. And that's not to say that there's not some awesome and good information in the way you practice healing. There absolutely is. But don't get too attached to your iceberg, because again, there's still other icebergs to be sought. And you don't need to feel threatened. I'm not saying that everything in here is wrong, or that here, if you already are here, that any of that's wrong. We just need to find out what's right, and what's right will go with us. And what needs to be adjusted can be adjusted, or what needs to be thrown out is thrown out. But this is not about fixing healthcare. Honestly, everything that's up here, we don't talk about in this organization. If you want to talk about healthcare and all the problems and how you think you can fix healthcare today, go to some other forum. This isn't it, because my assumption is you cannot fix healthcare, period. The second part, while we explore the issues with our 90% submerged iceberg, is also to develop scouts. So what is that? And there probably already are plenty of scouts out there, which is people who think differently. And we offer a course that helps you do that in terms of, well, how do you get off this iceberg? And as I was getting started, that was one of my fundamental problems for the first several years. I was thinking about this was, I don't even know how to get off this. How do I think differently to even start thinking about new paradigm? So we help develop the scouts. We're starting to look for new icebergs, which is new ideas. So let's explore what's out there. And then we find the ones that are good, and we start focusing more on those, and we might be able to see new icebergs as we move away from our current understanding. We won't necessarily see everything on the first pass. It's going to take some time. It's going to take a cultural evolution that will happen within this organization as we start to have these interesting discussions and really question what if and how, and get a little crazy in our thinking, and not be afraid of the creativity that comes from this. And finally, the challenges of changing a paradigm and getting off this iceberg emotionally and intellectually is quite difficult, because you're talking about a culture change. And so this is going to take time. If it doesn't sink in right away, or you're not totally on board and you're skeptical and questioning, we love you for it. Come on in. This is about finding a new way forward. So I'm really excited to be here, and I really look forward to working with you. And thanks for participating. Talk to you soon. If you want to learn more about Zazari Project's approach to a paradigm shift in medicine, check out ZazariProject.com. Go to the About menu, About Us, and Development Plan. Here you can learn more about the specifics of the 5-stage rollout intended to produce both theoretical and ultimately experimental arms to find real solutions to chronic disease. This is a grassroots effort, and Zazari Project needs you. I hope you'll join us.